106 group. This is video attempt number 2. This time I'm using a different software. I'm not going to film myself. Hopefully that makes the video more successful. Also, I'm going to do a SparkNotes version. Is that what it's called? SparkNotes? Does that sound right? I don't know. Hopefully a shorter video will be easier to produce with less issues. So I'll try to go through quickly, but I'll try not to speak as quickly. So I'm going to go here to student view to kind of walk through the same way you guys see it. And I'll just go to assignments here. And I like to show by type, but you can show by date as far as what's due. Looks like this is in the wrong spot. I'll move it. So you got your assignment section here, 40%. That'll also include the Pearson assignments that are not on here yet. But if you look in the schedule, you'll see them. These due dates are accurate. Not much due the first couple weeks just because I wasn't sure how long it would take to onboard the Pearson books, and so I didn't want to have that right up front. And I know for the second class, a couple students try to access it, the second class of the later class, and the reason was because I just hadn't uploaded it to that Canvas page, just forgot to. So I appreciate the students reaching out to me. That's not fixed yet. If you still can't access, then I'm missing another step. It's new to me, so I appreciate everyone's patience, and if you let me know if issues arise, I can fix them quickly and learn how to avoid them next time. Okay. This also has the breakdown. I talked about the other video. Everyone does really well in my class unless they miss assignments, and that certainly happens where a discussion board is missed or a worksheet is missed. As kind of a general rule, I don't accept late work, and so that's the reason why. Discussion boards are open for 2 weeks. I try to give you guys a lot of time to complete it. If issues come up, you can always come to me. If you come to me before and not after, usually we have more options and we can figure something out. You have your professional papers and presentations. The culture assignment is a group assignment, and the presentation and paper will both be done in a group. The presentation will be posted on discussion board 7. That's the last discussion board, and that discussion board is open. I would also, we'll go to it now, like you to pick, when you get your groups together, like you to pick a topic that and then post here on the discussion board for groups and topic is right here. And it'll go to whoever is first come, first serve. No one's done it yet, but you can do groups of, it says 2 to 4, but it can be 1 to 4 if there isn't a way for you to make a group work. It might make the task easier, but I certainly understand that online and social distancing makes doing online groups maybe more time consuming. And so it's up to you to decide what you want to do. The more groups we have, the more access to topics. If everyone does it individually, you kind of run low on topics, have to choose some obscure ones. Let's see, we'll go down to, we'll go back to discussion boards. I talked about this, the therapeutic communication. You'll want to have a partner, not necessarily to write the paper. You're going to write the paper on your own, but you'll have a student read your paper and write and fill out a rubric essentially to grade it and then give it back to you. And then I would like you to correct it. So you would essentially turn in the rubric that your co-student wrote on, your rough draft that they wrote on. So I want the student to write on your paper, either if that's on using Word references or if you guys give each other hard copies. Imagine ideally it's online if you guys aren't doing a lot more social distancing, and then turn in your own paper on the same day. And so you'll want to, when this is due, you'll want to have it done about a week in advance. So you'll give your co-student time to review your paper. Okay. We'll skip down to modules. Well, first, the discussion board 1 is open now, and then as you see, every week the next one opens up. I do have discussion board 7 open. That's the last one because you can post your presentation whenever it's finished. The other video, I go through the syllabus. I go through the schedule. I know that's one of the spots that it's hard to hear. But the schedule, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Other than I did update it, it is a little different than when it was. I opened it last week. The reason is because when I set up the Pearson readings, there's 4 assignments I added, and so I took away a couple worksheets and discussion boards. So instead of there being a discussion board worksheet every week. Sometimes that's substituted for a Pearson assignment. There are 4 Pearson assignments in the schedule. You'll see that. It's really, they're quizzes essentially from the reading, and there's only 4 chapters you have to read from the textbook. 1 on culture, 1 on trauma, 1 on stress, and 1 on sleep. All of the other reading will be provided by me under modules, which will be either videos or articles, videos that I've found, videos that I've recorded, and articles that I've found. I will also hopefully post a couple of videos if I can get the technology to work. Usually it's nothing that I have to record the screen for, so usually just a YouTube video I can upload to help sort of tie together the material. So the syllabus, kind of the most useful piece of information on the syllabus is a grade breakdown. You can get that in assignments. A lot of it's self-explanatory. Please don't copy other people's writings. The quizzes are going to be individual. Quizzes aren't going to be isn't the same level of weight as tests are. They're just assignments. We don't have a final or midterm, so therefore there isn't that 78% burden you have to meet on tests alone. However, you do have to have a 78% to pass this course. I want to open up the assignment just because I want to emphasize something. The other video I do go in more detail about writing expectations, but one thing I really emphasize: if everyone does this, everyone should get a good grade. 2 things. If there's 2 things that everyone can do, and they'll ace the papers. Okay. The first thing is do not turn in your first draft. I talked about that. I rambled on that for like 5 minutes in the last video. I can tell it's a first draft. I don't care how good of a writer you are. An example of somebody who turns in a first draft is George Lucas in Star Wars 2. If you watch Star Wars 2, you'll see how terrible it is. You'll be like, oh, that's a first draft screenplay. It totally is. So don't be like George Lucas. Don't turn in your first draft. But if you know you're a weak writer, I posted the writing resource. Go to the writing resource, have them sign your paper, and give it to me. If I see that you're reaching out to get help because you know you're a weak writer, I'll definitely use that in my grading, and it's more for the learning, not necessarily just to knock you down. If I see that you're trying to build your writing, then I'll acknowledge that with the grading. The second thing you can do to get an A, and this makes it really easy for me to grade and really easy for me to write an A. You see this paper content? Just write your paper. Fill in the gaps here. You can free write it if that's part of your process, but then I want you to organize it. I want the first section. It doesn't have to be just one paragraph. You can even write introduction at the top, and it can be 1 or 2 or 3, however many paragraphs. Introduce the therapeutic technique. And then the next paragraph, introduce the illness. And the next section, summarize literature. Next section, summarize the articles. Next section, discuss nursing implications. This should be your most robust part, nursing implications. That's the most important part. And then a final paragraph that is a conclusion paragraph that has no new content. If you do that, if you follow this, it's super easy to grade because I can go through and I can read each section and see that you got everything I wanted to you, and I write an A on your paper. If you make me go through your paper and find all these, it's very hard to read, and it'll be hard for me to grade it, if that makes sense. So those are the 2 things that I really want to emphasize. Peer review, here's a rubric here to go in more detail. Feel free to read that and go through that on your own. There's another rubric under modules that has like a checkbox for the other student, which is pretty much what I just said. Find each one of those sections. Do they exist? Is it sufficient? Yes or no? And then if it's not sufficient, your peer has told you and you can go correct it. The culture and nursing assignment has the same kind of a list. The presentation will be due before the final paper. The culture paper is kind of the final one. It's going to be due, I think, the second to last week. You post it online on the uploads on assignments, and you also post it on the last discussion board, and then it becomes sort of the last discussion board. Only one of you in your group has to post it on discussion boards. Only one of you in your group has to upload that in the paper. Just make sure you have all your names in it. Here's some writing resources, some APA resources. Maybe in my next video, I'll go into more detail on how to do research and how to do APA. Here's the modules, just 4 of them. You guys have had motivational interviewing and verbal judo. Motivational interviewing content is week 1. Verbal judo is week 2. That's next week. Worksheet 1 is motivational interviewing. Worksheet 2 is verbal judo. Same thing with discussion board 1, discussion board 2. Module 2 introduces the Pearson text. There's also a lot of other content here, including these 2 articles here. Here's the Pearson reading, Pearson assignments, which coincide with the reading. worksheet 3, and then discussion board 3. And then you go down here, it's part 2. It has complete the reading, and it has other activities as well. And so each of these modules kind of looks like that. It hopefully is self-explanatory. If you do have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out, or at first, even better, talk to your friends and see if it makes sense to them. Sometimes people who think like me see my layouts and it makes sense, and people who don't quite think like me, it can feel a little different. But I try to organize it up like this. Part 1, part 2 represents the 2 weeks in each module. Let's see. I don't know if I'm sure there's so much more that I talked about in the other video. This is meant to be, much quicker. Oh, I'll go to the Pearson just for people. So my lab and mastering, I hope that everyone has access to this now. I did see that people in the first, Canvas course that they had made it available. 3 of you got attached into it. So I'm gonna see if Pearson has been goofing off with me a little bit. Oh, it wants me to log in. Oh, bummer. I don't remember my password. So one thing important that I talked about in the other video with the Pearson is that I put a lot of topics in there because there are topics that I might use in this or next psychosocial class. It was pretty time consuming to set up, so I'm hoping to be able to use the same one for both courses. That might not be successful. So ignore all of the topics except for the 4 that I've assigned. Culture, I have them all assigned. All the topics are assigned, but there's 4 that actually have due dates, and that's the culture, the trauma, the not anxiety, the stress, and then the sleep. Are the only ones that have due dates and ones assigned to it. So hopefully that's clear. Like I said, this is the first time I've used Pearson. It looks excellent. It's certainly like an upgrade from our last system. It looks like it's going to be great to have it all in one place. It's just going to be a little bit of a learning curve as a professor. So I appreciate everyone's patience with me, and I appreciate the emails for clarification. Reach out with any questions, and I will see you guys online. All right, bye.